All right, everybody. This is Brian Holiday, and I just finished watching Cobra Kai Season 3 at 1.5 speed in one sitting. Now, I know some of you who are listening to this are wondering why I would watch something at 1.5 speed. But for those of you who listen to Geektastic Cypher, I have already explained I love to consume as much content as possible. And today was my day off, and I just felt like binging something. And watching Cobra Kai at 1.5, I was able to finish it off in just a couple of hours. Now, does that change my experience while watching the show? Possibly. Do I think it did? Not really. I think I still got to see the fights as the fights. I still got every single bit of information, every story, every character development, every angle, every ploy, every cheesy moment. And if anything, watching it at that speed helped me notice the slight flaws in their fighting styles a little bit less. Because I gotta say, compared to the fight at the end of season 2, which I thought was phenomenal, the season 3 finale fight was not on the same level. Those guys did not feel like they were putting in the same work. I know some of the same fighters were there, but some of the new fighters just didn't seem right for the fight. Some of them were way smaller than others. There were some kids in the fight that looked at least a good 4 or 5 years younger than the other guys. Maybe they were just small, but God, it looked like 18-year-olds beating up on 13-year-olds. Shout outs to Noah Seidel. Went to my high school when he was in the grade 11. He jumped me with his friend when I was like in grade 7 or grade 8. And I got to say, shit like that just looks lame. Lame and stupid and unimpressive. And it kind of just made all the characters who were fighting younger characters look bad, which I guess makes sense because they were the Cobra Kai kids who have turned into easily the worst version of Cobra Kai. And it's kind of funny because when I was watching the show from the beginning till now, I was really excited at the idea of Cobra Kai getting a redemption arc because the dojo itself is as much a character in the story. But man, Kreese is just really hammering home that Cobra Kai is just a bunch of assholes and Kreese is an asshole. And this kind of sympathy for the devil story that they told in the season, where they give us a look at his arc and where he comes from and why he is who he is. I didn't care. I had no interest in John Kreese and his backstory. It didn't add anything for me. I didn't feel more interested in the character. I didn't feel more sympathy for the character. He like, oh, he was a nerd who got picked on. Who cares? Like, I think they were trying to show us that he was similar to the kids that he was teaching and why he wanted to strike first, but it just comes across as an old man who can't let go. And maybe that's the lesson that the kids are supposed to get, but those kids don't seem to be getting it. Those kids are still actively being some of the most aggressive, evil, insanely violent students and children I've ever seen on a series. At one point, one kid spits on somebody after he beats him, and I thought to myself, that has to be one of the most disrespectful things you could do. And they just showed a kid doing it to another kid, and I was just like, this is intense. Like, this show is not for children. And that's the funny part because I feel like the original Cobra Kai, the original Karate Kids movies are something that parents would watch with their kids. Or at least if you watched the original Karate Kid, now you have kids and you want to watch Cobra Kai with your kid after binging the movies. And I don't think you can. There's a girl, one of the kids gets injured and has a cast on, and one of the bullies draws a dick on his cast, and one of the girls feels bad for him, so she writes something akin to "I love your big dick" and then signs her name. And I'm thinking, in what world are you showing this to kids? You know what I mean? So I know I'm sounding pretty negative, and I guess that's unfair because I actually did enjoy the season. I did enjoy the story. Miguel's not redemption, but return was a fun arc. I kind of wish that they would give us a little bit of the passage of time because I don't know how much time has passed. So it's hard for me to know if Miguel's recovery is just insane or if so much time has passed that it makes sense that he was able to walk again. I mean, I know for the purposes of a TV show, you don't really want to dwell on an injury for too long. You want to kind of just keep the story moving, which would make me feel like then don't write yourselves into that corner. If you're not going to be able to address the injury the way you want to, don't injure the character that badly. At least in my opinion, because it seems like if you're going to damage a kid's spine by him falling off of the railings and possibly breaking his back and then wrap that up in a matter of 4 or 5 episodes just so that he can get back into fighting style. And then by the end of the season is back in the major big fight of the season, then it just seems weird because 10 episodes, is it 10 weeks? Is it 10 days? I don't know. There's really one of the characters, I mean, this is not a spoiler. Robbie ends up in juvenile detention and then he's out. How long was he in juvie for? Because he's not in juvie at the beginning of the season. He gets into juvie a couple episodes in. So that's the thing. I don't know how long he's in juvie for. And I guess I'm supposed to understand that a lot of time has passed as to why Robbie got out of juvie. Miguel's spine is back and he's walking and he's able to do martial arts. You know, the kids started the school semester. You know what? I think if anything, school starts back at the beginning of the season and the season seems to end around Christmas is what I'm realizing now, which would mean in the span of what, not so September, October, November, December. But it's not even Christmas Day, so it's like early December. So you guys did 3.5 months. 3.5 months from for the injury and 3.5 months in juvie seems short to me. But hey, again, I feel like the writers wrote themselves into a bad situation. They wanted to hit us with a shock and awe at the end of season 2, and they did that, but that kind of messed them up because someone having a spinal injury is not a fun story to write. It's not a fun story to tell. And you can tell that they really wanted to get back to the martial arts. The actor playing Miguel probably really wanted to get back into fighting because you can tell he really likes it. He seems to really enjoy doing the martial arts on the show. I don't know if he's actually a black belt. I do know that Samantha LaRusso, the actress playing her, is actually a black belt. And you can tell that she's really passionate about the fight. Her story arc this season, a little lame. I don't really love the fact that she was kind of going through what appeared to be PTSD because, I mean, they all fight and they've all fought. So the PTSD seemed kind of weird and off to me. Adding Tori to the series was, or at least more so this season, seemed inevitably boring, to be honest. No offense to Peyton List, but the character is kind of a wrong side of the track story, and I feel like that's played out these days. It's kind of repetitive. Aisha to me was a more interesting character. She's a well-to-do young woman who comes from wealth but was still being picked on. And instead of trying to focus on like getting fit and fitting in with the cute girls, she was just like, you know what? I'm gonna learn karate and kick ass. And that to me seems super interesting. And then her friendship with Sam came back, and there's like a whole bunch of stuff that happened that was really cool to me with Aisha as a character that they got rid of in 2 seconds in this whole roving gangs of karate kids, and now the whole city is kind of freaked out by what happened at the end of season 2. So now they're kind of trying to push back against karate, a la Footloose. Like it's kind of like we want it banned, and they're like overcompensating at the school, and I don't know, it just seemed kind of weird to me. Cobra Kai as a dojo with the Miyagi dojo, and that whole story of their rivalry is kind of being overplayed at this point. I mean, it makes sense, but now you're looking at like 20 years later and it's still the main crux of the story. And I feel like Cobra Kai as a dojo, as part of the story, I would love to see it evolve instead of, I was excited with what Johnny Lawrence was doing with it. And then to see that Kreese got back in there and kind of just corrupted it back to being the old thing seemed boring. And Johnny Lawrence kind of being made a backseat to the story of Cobra Kai was boring. I didn't really want that. I wanted more of him in the cool car running Cobra Kai, making Cobra Kai better. Kreese could have started his own thing, but I guess the idea is like Kreese owns it and wants it and is a controlling asshole, and we're supposed to get that. I don't know. Another thing that I thought was a little bit difficult to swallow was the fact that the writers feels like the writers aren't sure how to tell the adult side of the story and the child side of the story at the same time. I feel like Tori, who I don't really like that much as a character, to be honest, but maybe I don't like her because they don't develop her story enough. I feel like her story is always being pushed back to make room for the adults in the series because Miguel has a story, Sam has a story, and Robbie have a story. They're the three main kids. I get that. But if you're gonna replace Aisha with Tori, give us Tori's story better. Don't just give us a 2-second pedophile story where a guy is kind of hitting on her. A guy is trying to pick her up. She's obviously underage. This guy's trying to insinuate, if you have sex with me, I'll waive the rent. And then John Kreese comes, and then the guy backs off. And then that's it. That's the whole story, and it's done in 2 seconds. I didn't want a story with a pervy guy hitting on Tori. I would have preferred they gave her a better story, and I would prefer they would flesh out that story because that seemed like, what do we have for Tori? Oh, the trope of like the young girl and the creepy old guy. Sure, just throw that in. And that's what it felt like. They just kind of wedged it in. I felt that was kind of boring. I would prefer to have seen Aisha come back than to add Tori into this story as kind of this predatory character for Sam, who again is going through PTSD. And like I said, I don't really understand the purposes of introducing that, but sure, everyone's dealing with their own thing. Robbie is brainwashed too easily and doesn't have a good father figure, so kind of falls for any father figure, is what they're trying to tell us, which is kind of sure, I guess. And and Hawk is Hawk, and he's broken and is supposed to be having a redemption arc throughout the season, or at least you think so. And then I guess we'll see. I don't want to spoil that part, but needless to say, I didn't think it was the best. I didn't think it was the best. A lot of the stuff that they do with Daniel LaRusso to wrap up his story as well, with his dealership and how his business is affected by the decisions he's making because he's so obsessed with karate, felt kind of quick. They again, because they have so many characters, and because the episodes are 30 minutes, they don't have enough time to tell the stories. It's funny. When I look up Cobra Kai is listed as an action, comedy, drama, sport series on IMDb. I would completely get rid of the comedy aspect and just pitch the show as a drama. It's an action drama. I don't find anything funny about the story of a kid almost being paralyzed, a kid dealing with PTSD, a kid on the wrong side of the tracks, and a kid has abandonment issues. None of that seems funny to me. And then you have an adult who has an alcohol problem. You have an adult who can't let go of his past. You have his wife who's trying to convince him to focus and think of our lives and our business together. And then you have and he ignores his son. You see Anthony once this season. Daniel never speaks to his son throughout the whole season. And these are the little things that you're seeing. And as I'm watching, I'm thinking, this is really weird. These notes that you're introducing for these characters make me feel like these characters don't take certain things seriously, ignore certain things, and for the purposes of telling your story, we're not supposed to notice that they're bad in those ways, but they are. Daniel LaRusso is not a good father, is what I'll say. He doesn't seem like a good father. He seems like a barely competent businessman because a lot of the decisions he's making are affecting the bottom line and the financial stability of his family, all for a rivalry from when he was a kid. And that seems weird to me. I mean, I know it's for the drama, but that's the point. When you're going to make a show and you're going to say it's an action comedy drama, then make the show a drama and toss the comedy part, because there's nothing funny about anything that we're watching there. And that's funny because I like the show. Again, this sounds like a very critical review, but I say all of this because I think the show could be better and should be better. And I'm looking forward to it being better because I think it's a lot of fun. I think Cobra Kai is tapping into the nostalgia of the 80s that Wonder Woman, if you saw my last review, was trying to tap into and didn't do. It didn't do a good job. And Cobra Kai is doing that. It's tapping into the nostalgia of the 80s, but it's set in the modern day. And it's giving us all the fun that we liked about the original films, the Karate Kid films. Guys, so that's my review. That's it. I'm out.